Everybody, appreciate everybody being here. Again, thanks for all the coverage you give us. Thanks for being everywhere all the time. Really appreciate it. I know our players do too. So thank you very much for all that you guys do. First, just want to start today by just thanking all of our military, all of our men and women who are fighting for our country and giving up their families and time with them, especially over the holidays right now, the holiday season, to be able to be overseas and be wherever you are, protecting all of our freedoms. So I was really proud of our football team, the way they wanted to represent military, especially alums of the University of Minnesota, to really put faces and names and actual people to the people fighting our country. So I was really proud of our players for that. Want to mention that. Thank you for all that you do. Second, I do want to mention this just because I can do it today. I won't have all the details till tomorrow, but our players got together and they decided they wanted to do the first annual RTB Row the Boat Turkey Drive. So we're going to do a turkey drive for next week, a week from today. But I will have all the details later on. We're still going through all of that. It's one of those things we kind of get together and we say, how do we want to serve and give? And the players said, a turkey drive. I said, all right. It's kind of like putting together a wedding in a week. So no problem. We'll do it. Let's do it. Let's find a way to get it done. So we've got incredible people here that make things happen. So I'll have all the details probably coming out tomorrow or Thursday about that, about what organizations will benefit from that and details of how our football team will be involved in that. Last but not least, just want to talk a little bit about our opponent, Northwestern, before we get started. Pat Fitzgerald is he's a friend. He's a close friend. He's really a guy that one of the first people I've actually talked to about becoming a head football coach years and years ago in terms of meeting me for lunch when I was an assistant coach at Northern Illinois, taking me to lunch in Evanston and just sharing an hour of his time with me, not knowing I was going to be a head coach, but he taught me so much about becoming a head coach. What does it mean? And the greatest quote he ever taught me was, just make sure you don't manage anybody. Make sure you lead people. Managing, we manage machines. We lead people, and that was the greatest quote that I could have learned at the time to become the leader of whatever I wanted to become. So, but he's class act. They've got an explosive offense. I think they're the hottest team in the Big Ten right now. When you start to look at what they've done, how they've won, 3 overtime victories, 5 straight. Their quarterback Thorson's played at an incredibly high level as of late in the last 5 games. He's one of the reasons why they continue to win. They've got a ton of experience. He's a 3-year starter. You look in their backfield, they have a 4-year starter at running back. That's 7 years of experience that always touch the ball pretty much 90% of the time of their offense. So the reason why they're having that success, winning those close games, consistency, right, and execution. And when you have guys that have played multiple years, played a lot of football for you, that's what happens. They find ways to win, and they take care of the football. They've got some guys on the outside, Flynn Nagel. Some other guys are just incredible pass catchers. They find a way to create separation, make a catch in really tough positions. They're very smart. They do not make mistakes. They do not beat themselves. And then 3 overtimes, that's how you win. On defense, they've got some really stout inside defenders. They've got linebacking guys that are long, they can run, they can tackle, people in the secondary that keep things in front of them. Hankwitz, he's been coaching for a long time. He's got one of the best defenses in the country. But you talk about a guy, Patty's one of the guys that's a freshman on their football team, but he is everywhere. I mean, you talk about dynamic football player in this league for years to come. He's really special, and their special teams have been dynamic. So it's a very, very good football team that we're facing, a top 25 program, top 125 team. This year, and we got our work cut out for us to be able to play our best. But I felt like we played one of our best games of the year last week, and we want to be able to not just duplicate that, but find ways to continue to improve in every area. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
PJ, as crazy as college football has been, especially in the last few weeks, how do you tell if you guys if you had a one-day aberration or if you're rolling after you put up numbers like you did against Nebraska?
Well, I think we put up a lot of numbers throughout the year at certain times. I just don't think we've played a complete game since Oregon State. I think what this was showing what the future looks like in terms of when we play consistent, when we execute, when we don't beat ourselves, right? And I think that's a combination of a lot of things. When you kind of throw in the kind of quarterback performance Demery had, this is only his 4th start. I bet you he didn't even know he could do that prior to even him doing it. You got to do things to know you can actually do it first. And that goes along with execution. 4 weeks ago, we're talking about how uncomfortable he looks in the pocket, how disastrous it was, how the passing game didn't work, how this didn't work, and how, oh, my gosh, we look lost. 3 weeks later, we scored 54 points against Nebraska, and so it's one of those things that continues to evolve. That's the way you want to look. Not necessarily means you're going to score 54 every game, but we didn't have any turnovers on offense. We executed at a high level. We were 9 of 15 in the passing game with 4 drops, 2 throwaways. So you talk about efficiency on the quarterback's play. That's close to a 15 for 15 game as you can get. Quarterback efficiency was up, one of the best quarterbacks in the country for that particular week. But it just doesn't happen. You don't just get lucky, right? But you can make that type of performance happen over and over and over with execution, with practice, with development, with consistency, with experience. And that's what we have to continue to do.
Has your perception or feelings towards Croft changed over the years?
I'm proud of his growth. I'm proud of everybody on this football team, and everybody has a different story. Everybody has a different journey. I'm proud of all of them for different reasons, and they're all different. Not everybody in this program will be treated equally. They'll all be treated fairly, right? And everybody has a different story. Everybody, has deposits in the bank. Everybody serves and gives at a different point. Everybody finds out what they can do at a different point. Everybody knows what their purpose is at a different point. I'm very proud of him in the progress he has shown since coming back from his suspension. It's been rapid. His academics are up. What he's doing in the community, serving and giving with the Children's Hospital, and I think he's starting to find out what his purpose really is. And when you start to watch that in a young man, there's nothing by coincidence of why he's playing at a high level.
You looked earlier in the year and your quarterback suspended. You wondered if he's going to be long for this place, or is he going to fit in here?
I think I'd be mad at myself if I didn't hold him accountable.
Yeah.
I think
you feel better about his future in terms of.
I do. He's got to. It's not like you have 5 more chances to screw up though. Yeah. So I think what he's done is he's kind of squeezed all the juice from the orange in that, and hopefully he's learned enough to continue to move forward. But what I've watched, I've seen a man grow up very quickly, and I've watched it become very important to him. Not doing it just to do it. To say, oh, coach, okay, you gave me a checklist and I checked those boxes. He's understanding why things are in place. And when you can give young people the reason why something's happening, you can get the most out of them. This isn't a dictatorship. We're doing this no matter what. Well, why? Because I said. That's not why we do this. There's a reason behind everything that we do, that we instruct our players that we'd like them to do, that we demand them to do, but here's why. And I think that for young people, they want that answer. If it's just something you're doing, it's silly. But if it has a purpose and they can see how it starts to affect them, now you can promote and create change. I've seen a lot of change in Demery, and I'm proud of them.
PJ, the patience with which Demery played on Saturday and the read option, throwing the ball, executing, did you see that really starting to come together fast, like late last week or during the week in practice?
Yeah, I thought he played. The word I used all week, especially with our staff, was poised. He's poised in every situation. He commanded the game, and I thought that he took what the defense gave him. We want a decisive decision maker at quarterback, confident, decisive decision maker. Well, the confident part comes from playing, the experience. The decisive decision maker comes from preparation, right, in terms of how well are you prepared. I think he's invested a lot more time into that, and I think you're seeing the results of that. But I think that Kirk Ciarrocca put together an elite game plan for his strengths. Again, 4 games, we have to be able to find out what this thing can do, what this person can do, what this skill set can do. And as you go, you start to, okay, well, we better not do that. It's not like we've had 18 games to be able to pull data from and say, okay, we know he does this well, we know he doesn't do this well. It's kind of the trial by error, not only just from practice, but in the game. And 2 separate quarterbacks with the different strengths and different weaknesses, but within the same system. What are we going to do more of? What are we going to do less of? What are we going to do more of now that we couldn't do with Connor? What are we going to do less of now with Demery that we did do with Connor? So on and so forth. So that's kind of how we've evolved over the last few weeks. But again, it's one of those things. I love the balance that we were running the offense with, and I thought Coach Ciarrocca called an elite game. I really thought he did to highlight the strengths of our quarterback.
When you rushed for 400 yards, what did you see up front, and in particular at the tight end spot?
And that's the biggest thing. I mean, we call it the shelf, and the shelf was moved. The C and the D gap at times became all the way to the A gap, and when that happens, that zone read player has to play almost 2-3 gaps by staying square to the line of scrimmage and shuffling. Well, our backs can run through arm tackles. And that was a compliment to Sam Schluter and Donnell Green at tackle, the guys inside. But also, I tell you, Big Waz, man, what a stud. I mean, he was moving people. We moved people better than we ever have. Our pad level was better. Our aggression was better. Our hand placement was better. Our feet were way better than they were. And again, our hip snap, all of that, the technique, the fundamentals, the details of a very young and inexperienced right side, right? I was very, very proud of those guys. And I think they start to see the growth and what can become. You know, Mike, back to your question, you can see what it can be, but what also can make it go to where it was, right? It's just a lack of execution, fundamentals, details, consistency. You know, having success is doing all the small things over and over and over and over and having that consistency, not only the consistency, but growing and getting better at those things. And, you know, that's what we're working on. You know, we've kind of all year kind of been against time with the lack of people we had in spring ball, the implementation of an offense, and not having the chance to master things yet. But now you're starting to see our offense and defense be in it and special teams be in the system for a while, and we should be improving. We should be growing. Doesn't mean you're going to win every game, but you should start to see that improvement from your players individually, and every one of our guys is getting better, and that's a positive sign.
You look at their run defense, pass defense splits are pretty lopsided. Are teams basically abandoning the run and just throwing against them, or is that on you guys to be patient, stick with the run? Even if
In terms of, you're talking about Northwestern?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's abandoning the run. I think they're that good. You know, they're that good. I mean, they've got their front four are very, very stout, very smart, very aggressive, twitched, and they make plays. Their front four, it's not like they just take up space so the backer can make the play. These guys are taking on double teams, shedding double teams, and making the play themselves. Taking on a single block, shedding, making the play themselves. So that's what makes them very difficult. They're not just taking up space. They're creating plays with the front four, which, again, allows the next level, the linebackers, to swarm, make plays, get ball stripped, do those types of things, second man strip, bite the ball. So that they're becoming very effective.
You go into that thinking, all right, even if it's not working early, the run game, you got to stick with and be patient.
Well, Chip, we have to stick with the run game, you know, based on our personnel and what we have and the depth and the experience and the explosiveness we have, or our different strengths or different weaknesses. We have to find a way to make the run game work in 2017. There's going to be years where if we're not running, we'll abandon it and throw for 400 yards. Right now, that's not the highlight and the strength of our offense, but we will take what a defense gives us. But we are going to make sure that we exhaust every option in the run game possible. That's how we're built this year.
Coach, you talk a lot about like developing a culture and connecting past and present players. One good example of that is the Barber family with Thomas's whole family. What does the Barber family mean to like the tradition of football?
It's a legacy family, and we need way more of them. And I hope that as a head football coach here, as long as they'll have me, that I can help create more. You know, we want former players that have children to make sure that if they have an opportunity to go to that particular school, that they go there, that they want that experience. They need that experience. They thrive and are thirsty and are raised to want to do that, to dream of doing that. That's powerful. And that's what we have some that we've created, some we need to work on, and some we need to bring back. And that's part of the head football coach. That's part of the culture that we're doing everything to establish. I always bring it back, and I said this publicly numerous times. I've had numerous times to meet and talk with Barry Alvarez. You know, he didn't win one game in the Big Ten his first year back in 1989 or 1990. And look, we're 27 years later where Wisconsin is. It's that culture, period. And that's what I feel that University of Minnesota needs. And I'm here to be able to connect the past, coaches and players and families and legacies to now, but not only now, the future. That everybody can be able to celebrate that. And we have. I just want it to be bigger and better and make it, you know, just improved. So it's very important. But the Barbers are a family that have done that. And, you know, Thomas's dad came in to speak to our football team earlier in the year. And it's amazing when a Barber walks in the room and kind of demand respect immediately. Oh, there's a Barber. You know, everybody just kind of straightens up a little bit. But Thomas is somebody that's very, very important to this culture. And so is his family, his whole family, not just his dad, but you know everybody else that was involved with his family. So very honored to have that legacy part of our program, and I look forward to extending that as we continue to go.
What do you do or has it ever happened to you where dad calls you and says, I went to school there, whether it's Western Michigan here or wherever you are, I want you to look at my son, he's a great player, and you look at him and you say, not great enough. Does that happen very often? I mean, the barbers are easy to identify, but do you get a lot of tweeners that are?
Yep, we do. And I'll be honest with you. I'm very honest with everybody. I think all they want is an honest opinion. But again, if it's close, I'm going to take the kid somehow, some way. Whether it's a scholarship, whether it's a preferred walk-on, it's not just the scholarship that you're going to play. Does your son want to be a Gopher? Is he good enough to be a Gopher? Now, he might not be a scholarship type caliber Big Ten player, but do you want him to be in the program? And if you want him to be in the program, I want him here. You know, we have examples of that we're working on as we speak. And we want to be able to have those past players' family inside our program. You know, again, if somebody's a great tennis player, no offense to JG, but if a great tennis player has never played football and they want to come here, that probably won't happen. No matter how strong the forearm or the backhand is, it's more of, if it's close, I want them here. You know, and I want to continue that legacy as they continue to go. And I want people leaving the University of Minnesota in this culture saying the greatest place to go in the country, in the world, to play football and get a cultural experience that's going to last you an entire life, academically, athletically, socially, spiritually, is University of Minnesota. And if I can send anybody there, not just my family, if I can send anybody there, I want to send them there.
Tayon, it was the first time on Saturday that we saw some plays
Sure.
from him this year. How would you characterize his season to date and what he needs to do to get more out there more often?
He's growing up. Growing up. You know, we always talk about it's a long road to 500. It's kind of a saying that we have. And he is getting there. You know, every day he gets better. It has not been an easy journey for him. Maybe hasn't been necessarily an easy transition in all four areas. But I think he's starting to see as well that here's why. And if you want this, we need you to do this, this, and this. But you don't have to. But if you want this, here's how you have to go about doing it, and here's why we want you to do it. But I thought he showed what he can do. He's only going to get bigger. We need this entire football team to be in a full year of our strength and conditioning program. You know, we haven't even had that yet. With the amount of surgeries we were coming back from, with the amount of time they had off, just implementing some things, technique just in the weight room. There's a whole process of learning how to lift within our culture before you actually go lift. And there's a whole step-by-step process that we don't have to do that with our team anymore. We can just do that with the freshmen that come in. Now our team knows that. Everybody needs that. Tayon's one that can benefit from an off-season where it's dedicated to being something that you're familiar with now, that you're not just looking to get accustomed to, see if you fit. You're all in. Let's get after it. Let's build your body. Let's build your mind. Let's build you into the player that we know you can become. But I'm very proud of the progress he's made as well. Everybody grows at different stages, and you have to be very patient with that, and you have to respect that for every player.
Coach, Steven Richardson, he hasn't really shown up as much on the stat sheet this year, but what impact has he had on the D-line and the defense as a whole?
You know, Paul and I were talking about that on the way over from the radio show. Steven Richardson's playing phenomenal. Phenomenal. But when you start to look at when people game plan us, watch how many times they double team Steven Richardson. It would probably be 90% of the time he's got two people on him all the time, whether it's pass protection, whether it's the run game. When you have the best player on your team, and then when you look at it, and there's not a lot of guys that are that close to that type of talent level that we have right now in terms of that, right, in terms of the experience and the strength and what he's done here, you can take that guy out of here, then it makes everybody else have to play in maybe a role they're not used to, or are they experienced enough to do it? Do they have to prove themselves to be able to do it? Hey, if we're going to get beat, 96 is not going to beat us. It's probably what people are saying. But what he's doing is allowing other people, the Carter Coughlins, to have success, to have more sacks than Carter's ever had. That's what he's allowing it to do. And I think he's playing better and more selfless than he's ever played. And I'm proud of him for that. And I think he's having a great year. Statistically, you're not seeing it because he's got to defeat two Big Ten players every single play. But what I tell you is his oar's been in the water. He practices incredibly hard. I know he's excited to get back to Chicago to play in this game. And I know that everybody wants to do it for Steven.
DJ, with Antoine, would you expect that he'd be a full go in spring practice? And between now and then, does he get treated a little differently in terms of conditioning, stretching, the whole thing as far as, you know, what he's gone through with that hamstring? Can you try a little insight as to how you approach that?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, Dan Nickel, our strength coach, and his entire staff, and Sip, our trainer, Arno, and their entire staff. I think they are some of the best in the country. You know, one thing is we're never going to put Antoine on the field until he's ready, and that was part of the reason to kind of say, okay, well, I'm not sure if this is right for you to come back after we got all the results from all the tests. We didn't want to risk that for him, and he's still rehabbing. He's still, going through. He's not practicing, but he's going through some small things at the end of practice to be able to rehab, get back into things pretty slow. But I expect him to be full by spring ball for sure. But we're taking it a little bit slower. I think one thing it's allowed him to be able to do is step into a leadership role that before he just was Antoine Winfield Jr., the football player. And everybody loved the way he played, but he didn't have to lead because last year there was a lot of senior leadership on the team, and they kind of did all that, and he could just play. Well, maybe he thought that at the beginning of this year, well, we need him to be the best player and the best leader. And I don't know if he was ready for that yet. Numerous times he's been in the office, well, how do I do that? What do I do in this situation? We've met numerous times on how he can become a better leader, and he's been able to apply those things with the time off on the field at practice, not practicing, but being able to teach everybody else and watch and observe and get a different perspective. One thing we're doing with our players is giving them a different perspective. Sunday nights, we practice with our young players. We scrimmage, and they have their own game. And then we also practice after our practices. Since they're only about 50 minutes now, we have a young guy practice after that. Again, you have to prepare for going to a bowl game, not going to a bowl game. We're going to get those practice hours somehow, some way, right? And we've been doing that since game one. But what we've also done is implement that on Sunday nights. We've kind of turned the play calling over to Connor Rhoda on the offense, John Celestine on the defense, and give them the opportunity to see it from the coaching aspect of calling plays. The greatest form of teaching, or greatest form of mastery, is teaching. So if they can master that, and then we're going to rotate different players to be able to call the game. The best is when they get to delay a game. Well, then I go over there and I pretend to yell at them, okay? But I said, that's what it's like on a headset. They're like, really? It is? They don't hear any conversations. They just think you guys are silent the whole time. So it's great experience for our players. So Antoine can even step into that role, start even learning the defense that way, and see it from different points of view and different perspectives. But he's doing a tremendous job in his rehab.
About two more, Chip. Go ahead. Two things. Where were you in your career when you met Fitzgerald, and then also you have a big contingent there, sir?
First of all, yes, we have a lot of family, a lot of friends that will show up at Northwestern, just a lot of connections back in Chicago, a lot of former high school coaches, and it'll be a lot of fun to have them back. To answer your other question about Coach. What's that?
That lunch you had with him, where
Yeah.
were you at in your career?
I was at Northern Illinois University, and I think it was my first year being a position coach. That was my first, position coach job as wide receiver coach for Joe Novak at Northern Illinois, and that's when I met with him. And I knew I wanted to be a head coach a long time ago, but I just wanted to know what it was like to be a head coach, and I knew I wanted to get around people that I wanted to kind of be like, and I always looked up to him. I think he does things the right way. He's got a lot of energy. He's got incredible vision. And for what he's done for Northwestern, not only just on the field but off the field, the perception of Northwestern and the popularity of Northwestern, you got to take your hat off to him. He's just, he's kind of a trailblazer that way, and especially being a young coach thrown in a very, very, very tough situation, especially after a passing of a very, very popular and famous football coach. So that's a very tough role to go into, and to watch him handle that, and, being a Chicago kid, watching him handle that, it was graceful. And it was very, he showed the leadership that he had, and it still spews through. I mean, you can see what kind of powerful leader Pat Fitzgerald is, not only just for Northwestern, but for our game. He's involved in all types of committees for the AFCA. He does a lot in philanthropy, raises a lot of money for Northwestern. I mean, he's dynamic, and he's done a great job.
What's been the response to some of the gift bags you've given out to former players?
Hopefully pretty good. Maybe surprised, maybe not surprised. I don't know. I don't hear a lot back. I don't expect a lot back. We do what we do. I've never do anything to expect anything in return, except I do tell our players, I think we as a society just take in things and think we deserve it and expect it. And, even with clothing and hats and gloves and whatever it is, make sure we thank the people that are giving those to us. It's not your right just to get that. I came from somewhere. I came from some budget. That came from somebody doing something to be able to give you something that really looks really nice. So we're teaching our players that every day. But again, we don't do anything to expect anything in return. But
Okay, thank you.
You got it. Row the boat, Sky Mile. Go Gophers. Thanks, everybody.